Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting of Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. This meeting is being conducted by means of electronic participation as permitted by Section 238, 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, and the Town of Mono Procedure Bylaw 2020-42. Council chambers is not open to the public at this time. You can view this meeting live on the Mono Civic web portal video site, and I want to confirm that there is quorum of council and call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded, video recorded and broadcast, and to remind members of the public that disclosure of council, the disclosure of pecuniary interest can be made now at any time throughout the meeting. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councillor Mantelo if he would read the Indigenous land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Mono resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Ti-o-na-tau-ti, the Ah-ta-wana-daron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe. We also acknowledge that the town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare our honor and respect to the past and present connections of Indigenous people with this land, its waterways, and its resources.
Thank you. So item number 1, adoption of the agenda. And so we have a motion that council approves the agenda of section 12-2021 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And is there any additions, deletions? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed to the motion? Okay, so that's carried. And next item, the approval of the minutes of session 10-2021 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Mantelo and seconded by Creelman. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So there are no proclamations today. Item number 3 is public question period. Is there any questions being received, Mr. Simpson?
Your Worship, we have not received any questions in advance.
Okay, thank you. And there's no delegation scheduled for today. So now we're on to section 5, unfinished business and deferred items. So the list of unfinished and deferred council business, is there any questions or concerns or additions? Yes, John?
This is more of a heads up in as much as we have an item here with regard to correspondence with MTO, but we also have a letter sent to another municipality on our schedule, and when that comes up on the agenda, I'll be addressing that. Something else here. Oh, just wondering if we have any update on the police service board structure issue.
I haven't heard anything at all.
Nor have I, John. I'll follow up with the CIOs as well.
Thanks.
Yes, Ralph?
I have an item to add, Your Honor. It's not it is, I guess it is our business. It's something that's been going on for years, and we keep, every 6 months we say, what's going on here? And it's with respect to Brookfield and the incomplete water treatment plant. They have indicated in item number 7 of Schedule A that they'll be providing us with a definitive, shall we say, report or plan in June. So I'd like to have the Brookfield issue put on the this agenda, please.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, so now we're on item 2, community roadside cleanup. Report from Kim Heaton. And Kim, did you want to add anything further to your memo?
No, it's just council had expressed an interest in being reminded about what had been done, and so I went back through everything, and it's there in the memo.
Okay. Any comments or questions of Kim and this item? Yes, John?
Thanks for the background. I still think we need to come up with a program, and whether it's possible to implement it for this fall, or we plan something big by way of a rollout next spring. I still think we need to do something.
Okay, did you want to make a suggestion as to a date for us to consider this?
No, I think we have bigger issues, frankly, in front of us, but at some point it would be nice to develop something. And I see social media being a big feature. People being able to post photographs of their efforts to clean up ditches and roadways around the town. So I think we just have it out there. I think it should go on our to-do list, and I'm quite open to holding off until next spring if that results in a better program than rushing something.
Okay, so with that, Mark, would you please see that it's added to our unfinished business? Ralph?
Just a comment. I'm not quite sure why it didn't go ahead last time. I have some suspicions. I think that this should be entirely volunteer driven, and it would likely be quite successful.
Okay. Sharon, did you have something to add?
Just that I think it's pretty much in place in Kim's mind, I think. And I think we should aim for the fall. If we find out we can't do it then move it to the spring. But I would like to see us try and roll this out in the fall.
Okay. So that will be on our list of unfinished items so that way we won't lose sight of it. Okay, so amendments to parking bylaw, no parking zone. So we've got reports from Mike Dunmore. So I guess we'll start with Mike.
Thank you, Your Worship. What I was really trying to do there was sort of give council a brief overview of the MECP email that was received late last week, and an overview of Councillor Mankelo's document as well. But I understand that Councillor Mankelo may have some additions, or but I think I captured what council really needs to make decisions on with respect to parking only in the bottom of that, and I'd be happy to. I got a map here that I could put on screen for council, and I also am prepared to talk about it with any questions or concerns that council may have. And direction that council may want to give public works here.
Okay, so do you want to start with the map, or Ralph, did you want to add your report?
If I could suggest, Your Honor, my report, which went out to everybody yesterday afternoon, builds on Mike's report, and it builds on my previous document which was presented to council at the last special meeting, and on the recent email letter from our Julian. I may mess up her name. I'm sorry.
And third,
Meeker, thank you. And it really is a recommendation to deal only with the parking issue. And Mike and I had a very good get together on Friday. We by car and foot, we visited all areas where we might consider parking, and came up with a recommendation. And so that's the basis of this document. And I think if Mike would like to put it on, throw it up on the screen, it would be very easy to discuss it here. Is that possible, Mike?
Yep. Yes, it is. And Your Worship, if that's okay, I'll share my screen.
yeah,
The document is based on a couple of recommendations are based on a couple of facts, and if you notice Mike's note on the falls, he noted that 1 kilometer wasn't enough to deter people from parking, so that they just parked at the end of the 1 kilometer. So that we really realized that we need to have quite extensive no parking if it's going to deter people from coming. I think we've got one, shall we say, one good chance that I'm aware of in protecting the park. As you all know, there's been some calls from residents to close the park. And I'll deal with my thoughts on that at the moment. I think that's a mistake. It may be what we need to do, but it's kind of like placing your crown jewels in the vault and not having a chance to enjoy them. I think we should be able to manage the park by managing the user input. That's what the parking will partially do, along with a reservation system that Julian has indicated that they're going to do. And I would hope that we would push for that reservation system to be incorporated yesterday. Should be done now, okay? Anyway, the suggested no parking is based on the fact that people will walk for a long distance, and that the recommendation of MECP to basically have perimeter no parking is excellent, but it needs to have the addition of, we say, spokes to the wheel. So we've got the park here, and then we've got abutting roads to the north and the south that people can park on. We have to have no parking on those roads, and it has to be long enough distances to deter people from parking. But if you look at Mike's map there, we've got yellow are the perimeter roads on the top there. I've got my pointer on this, but I don't think it's pointing through. Is it to other people? No, I don't think so. Anyway, on the north, that's the 25th side road, and that's the northern perimeter. And then the third line east is the eastern perimeter down to the Mono Center Road, which is in red. And then the second line going north to the terminus from Mono Center. So the yellow is all the perimeter roads. Now, in order to deter parking, we're recommending that we also have no parking on the abutting roads. And starting in the north, the first abutting road is the second line, and we're recommending 2 kilometers or to the nearest most suitable geographic point. That means you don't end it in somebody's driveway, or if you don't end it just short of a little hill, etc. So it has to be appropriate. Second line, 2 kilometers, 25th side road from the second line to the first line, which is roughly 1.5 kilometers, a little bit less. Going down to the south, it would be the 20th. This is the 20th of the side road, and it would be from the second line all the way over to the first line. Working our way around clockwise, we would have the the Mono Center Road, which goes south here. That would be, it's not on my screen, but it goes all the way down to the 15th side road. And this is the third line where we had, I think, 160 cars parked on it, accessing this little stile right here at the corner, the southeast corner. That would be closed off as well, right down to the 15th side road. Mono Center Road that Dufferin County has been very, very cooperative and very supportive of putting in no parking. And they did emergency no parking along the southern portion and around the corner a little bit up to the north. And with their cooperation, we'd recommend no parking for all that area, as well as a little arm that goes out to the east where the red goes. So that's the recommendation, that no parking on both sides of the road. And we support the MECP's recommendation that the only access would be the parking lot on the third line. So the idea of presenting this in some detail was to try to get this going and get it off the table and get some action with it. And not that this is the definitive answer, but it's presented to council for them for you all to fine tune and criticize or whatever.
Okay, now, is there any comments on the proposal? Yes, John?
If we get to the point of a motion, I'm going to ask that the motion be split or drafted in such a fashion that the proposed no parking from the Dufferin Road 8 south on the third line be separated out. I'm going to declare an interest on that because I'm the adjacent property owner on the west side. I'd also like to take this opportunity to indicate that the request to close the road did not come from me, or there was no request to close the road from me. In fact, it hadn't even occurred to me that was a possibility. So I just want to go on the record indicating that.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mike, could you stop sharing your screen for us?
Your worship, just before you do that, your worship, I had a question on the map.
Okay.
And I don't know whether Mr. Nix did. The third line, so if you're coming north and you go by the entrance of the park now, parking lot's full and you're going north. When you get up to the intersection of third line and 25 side road, were you proposing no parking zones north of third line and east along 25 side road there? Because that to me seems like the obvious place now to park and still get into the corner of the park.
Well, that's a great question, Mark, and we consider that. I'm not sure in my own mind what's the best thing to do there. The access would be through that corner, which is kind of a meadowland, and people would have to just truck through there, and maybe they would do that. So I'm open. I'm certainly open. You're suggesting we might go north on the third line and go east on the 25th side road. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether there was any consideration of that because it is the budding.
Well, it very much was. And there's two other considerations as well. If you look at the first line and you go south on the first line, it's a, starting from the 25th side road, it's a dead ender. And Mike and I drove down that and discussed it. And it has been recommended by one of the residents that we would include that because there has historically been an entrance to the park there. And so that's a possibility, and that might be necessary in the future. And if you go immediately to the, maybe somebody can put their little pointer there, immediately to the west of that, you come to the, correct, immediately to the west of that, you come to the Mono track, which is between the first line and Huron, Ontario. And that's also an access point to the park. So Huron, Ontario could be, again, an area which we would need to put no parking. And the first line from the 25th south also could be, as well as the two areas that you pointed out, the third line north of the 25th and the 25th east of the third.
So you are suggesting then that that would be something that would be added to? Do you know how many meters are you talking north on the third? How many meters to the east on the 25th?
We go, Michael, I think we decided that 2 kilometers was likely going to be a deterrent, but we're not sure. So you go 2 kilometers north on the 3rd and go over on the 25th, go over to the 4th line, which is not 2 kilometers, but it's a finite geographic limit, and it makes some sense.
So,
Okay.
your worship, through your worship to Mark. So Mark, we had discussed that that northeast quadrant. There's actually a I don't know if you can see my little pointer.
Mhm.
There's actually a stream that comes through there, and you would only be able to get about this far, and you'd regret your entry into the park. You'd run into the face of the escarpment, but you would run into a meadow or the wetlands in there. And the way that we had sort of looked at this is we were trying to obviously make it sort of an equal distance away from the entry points. So if they did end up parking here, they have a 1.5 kilometer hike along here or a 1.5 kilometer hike up here to get there. So I'm open for suggestions on this. One thing I do say to council though is when we get these signs in, they will stand the test of time unless council tells us to do different. And it will be something that that shows the seriousness of what council is doing, and they are done then, right? So really to take them down relies on council, and it does it does control the numbers, in my opinion, that would go into the park.
Okay. Sharon?
Are these, what size are these signs? Like the small no parking signs are fine, but I think it has to be something that you cannot miss. There is no excuse. So I'm wondering if we're going to have bigger signs.
I hear you on that. I don't take that as an excuse because they're less than the normal distance. But our next order will be some of them will be 2 feet by 2 feet. That's the maximum size we can get, and some of them will be 45 centimeters, so 18 inches. Right now, you're looking at 12 inches on site.
Yeah.
And we're ordering. We won't order the 12-inch in again, probably, because by the time we switch them out, we will have an inventory of them. And we're going to put the big signs at the starts
Yes.
and the ends, and at appropriate, what I would say to be appropriate increments between. And probably 2 big ones when you start the zone, and they can't be missed, and that's where we're heading on that.
Okay. So, can we stop sharing the map? Yeah, because I can't see anybody else. So if we could stop sharing the map for now.
If you can just bear with me a bit, sharing was easy. Not sharing doesn't seem to be. I just got to check the.
There we go. Perfect. Yes, Fred.
Yay.
Yeah, I had 4 comments. Some of this may be slightly repetitive because you've covered some of this. One place you don't have no parking, and I'm not saying I recommend it, but just to make sure you're aware, from Pure Ontario, you can enter the Dufferin County Forest, and there's a very good trail through it right into the park. Although I think historically the park has not liked the fact that that trail leads into the park. There is an access trail that way, and people do use it. So you haven't put no parking there, but I just point that out to you.
Can I comment on each of your points?
Yeah.
But we had a look at that, Fred. Actually, I mentioned that a minute ago, and I agree that could become the default entrance to the park. Again, it's going to need extensive signage along there if we're going to, it's going to be deeper. There is the old site, which is just north of the hill, and there's the new site, which is heavily fairly heavily signed right now, and maybe we should take all those signs down because it sort of says to people, hey, have a look here, maybe this is the place to go.
My second comment was that in general, I'm in favor of the memo that Ralph and Mike put out. However, I think, and particularly on the second line, just as it goes up to the dead end at the Outdoor Education Center, historically that has been, everyone knows that's an entrance point to the park. So we can do the no parking, but I do think we better, maybe in conjunction with Ontario Parks, come up with a communications plan. Maybe we need big signs at just where the second line goes north from the 20 side road that says there is no entry to the park here, or something like that, because a lot of people think that is historically a spot to park and get into the park. So we need a communications plan. My third point, and I made this before, and there's a couple of ways it can be handled, but the Bruce Trail, the Dufferin Highland Bruce Trail Club maintains the trails through the park, or at least one of the couple of the trails. They have to have a means of accessing that. So I, in the past, have suggested at the 25 side road, we leave us, there is not a gap, but there's a place now where you can pull a car over and be off the traveled way. However, Mike, I know the danger, if you leave a little gap in the no parking zone there, of course, it'll fill up with somebody's car, and when the Bruce Trail maintenance people come along, they won't be able to get in. The other place they access the park is through the cemetery on the second line. Rather than leave gaps in the no parking, and Fred Simpson, are you listening? Because we've discussed this. The alternative is in our no parking bylaw to put some, again, I don't know what the right word is. I'm going to use occupancy permit provision, just as the county does, okay? That so the Bruce Trail, they could have some permit, maybe it even be for the whole year, and their license plate is written on the permit. They post it on their dashboard, and they park in a no parking zone. We have to make that provision, okay? The fourth point that I'd like to make is that, so we now are agreeing with Ontario Parks that the only access point for the park is through the third line parking lot. That's fine. That's acceptable to me. But you got recognize one thing in doing this. You have one main Bruce Trail going north-south through the park, and you have a couple of side trails, the BYLAWS side trail that and historically, in fact, Ken McGee and I even put that chainsaw carved plaque up in the Mono Center parking lot, telling people that there's a Bruce Trail side trail. You can either go straight north or you can go across the road, and both ways lead you into the park. So yes, we can agree with Ontario Parks. There is only one access place for the park, but there will still be many, many hikers coming through who have nothing to do with the third line parking lot. Just make sure you understand that when we pass this bylaw. Those were my four comments. Could I just hear from Fred Simpson though, whether or not you told me it was feasible to introduce something like that into our no parking bylaw. I don't know how long it would take to do it or how complicated it is, but is there any hope we could do it before the summer gets here?
Yeah, when it comes to Bruce Trail maintenance, I don't even think we need to amend our bylaw. We just come up with a permitting system, because they're going to be, these permits will be good for a year or longer, and they don't have to be created ad hoc as they would be when we were talking about Blue Heron. So we create a permit system, we give them to the Bruce Trail or the Dufferin Highlands group, and our bylaw enforcement officers know about it. They see those permits, they don't ticket. No changes needed, it can be done immediately.
Okay, immediately. So if they phone me again, I'll tell them that we're going to have a permit system in there, and it'll be done, when you say immediately, by June?
Yeah, we can have it up in 10 days. Right, we just have to create a permit and get it to them, and inform our bylaw and police. That's all that's needed. because they're permanent,
Does it need a council resolution?
no?
Oh, okay.
As long as, well, if council wants to provide that direction, that's fine, but in resolution, but I think they can just give staff the direction that we allow maintenance permits, and bylaw will respect that.
Okay, actually, and just in talking to you, there is a fifth point, and John, this affects you. Historically, the dividing line between Dufferin Highlands Bruce Trail Club and the Caledon Hills Bruce Trail Club is right at the corner of your property. And historically, there's been a place where you can get 2 or 3 cars right in that corner. I only mention that because, again, we may be creating difficulties here, making that all no parking. A lot of people, a lot of hikers, the serious hikers, they have, they have a schedule. Okay, this week or this month, I'm going to do Caledon Hills. And where's their end or start point? Right at the corner of County Road 8 and the third line. If we make that all no parking, okay, I know there's difficulties. I just want to bring this out because it is going to create, I suspect, some havoc. It is a logical start or end place for serious hikers. They either start the Dufferin Highland section or they end the Caledon Hills section. I don't know quite what to do with that, but couldn't actually historically, I'll tell you what I made the suggestion to Mike Dunmore several times about the corner, the road, the County Road 8 bends and the third line takes off and it leaves a triangle of land that is actually owned by the town. It's too steep to park a car there, but it might be possible if the Bruce Trail were willing to pay for it, put 10 loads of gravel in there and make a little parking lot for 6 cars or something. We don't have to decide that today. I'm just warning you that there will be a problem at that corner.
Hey,
Fred,
Sharon?
I don't know what to say from the standpoint of, historically, and we're not discussing a motion here. Historically, we've never had any issue with people parking on our road allowance. We in fact mow it and try and keep it nice for that very purpose.
Okay. Sharon?
I think we are in a different situation here, Fred, and I think that perhaps everyone is going to have to adjust. I know that there are a lot of, I'll name one, Leela Fedor gets dropped off. She doesn't leave her car anywhere. She gets dropped off when she's doing one of her long hikes, and many do. So maybe there has to be an adjustment if you're doing something like that, that you have a parking area somewhere else and people get dropped off and picked up at the exit of the Bruce Trail. I also was at the corner of County Road 8 and third line, and I can see the stile right across the road. Stayed there for a while because it really was annoying, the people trying to move around there. And so I stayed there for a while. Not one person went across to go over the stile in through the Bruce Trail. They didn't even notice it. They headed west along 8 to go up to the 3rd to go into the entrance, or they headed the other way to go in through the middle of the hamlet. So, I was there for quite a while. Those people didn't even notice that it was there. And Bruce Trail people that I know are not really going to be out there on a weekend. And neither are the people who are going to be doing maintenance. They're not going to be there on a weekend going through that park. Other areas perhaps. And I think having a solid permit thing as the clerk suggested, that's an excellent move. There's no question there. Absolutely perfect.
Thanks. Fred?
Yeah, I just would like to point out to Councillor Martin that the people she saw this weekend were not Bruce Trail hikers.
That's right, but there was still an entrance, wasn't there? And they didn't use it. I mean, it's right there. It's pretty obvious. And they
And
didn't
they were
even
not-
use it, which is good.
They were not Bruce Trail hikers.
That's fine. They still wanted to get into the park.
Kim?
Oh, I lost my agenda.
Yeah, I guess my question is in regards to the parking lot at Mono Community Center. And there is a sign there that says for our smaller of the 3 parking lots that this parking lot is for users of Mono Cliffs Park. Are we taking that out? Are people still going to be encouraged to be able to park there so that they can, we get a lot of biking people, we get a lot of hikers on a regular basis who park in that parking lot and then walk through the playground or walk through the Bruce Trail entrance and head over to the park. So my concern is whether or not Mono Community Center is going to become the predominant parking lot now.
Let's hope. Yes, Sharon?
Okay, so much of what we're talking about depends on what the park does. If the park, we have talked about the third line being the only entrance. If the park talks about the third line being the only entrance, they have to make a solid effort to close the one in the middle of Mono Center, period. Which means people aren't going to need to park where you are. But I'd really hate for, soon we will have tournaments once that new tennis court goes in, we are going to have tournaments at Mono Center, which is fabulous. We've been waiting for years for this to happen. And we are not going to want to have hordes of people that are just going to be parking and walking through. It's going to be difficult. And it's not going to be over next weekend or the weekend after. We've been found. It's just going to continue. So maybe you only allow a certain area over there right now. I don't know.
Sorry, that's supposedly what we have right now, that smaller parking lot.
But it's a lot of it's going.
Yeah, so my concern is obviously that once that's full, it's going to fall out into the rest of the parking. And once we reopen up our facilities, which hopefully will be sooner than later, those parking lots will be full with our own rentals on the weekends.
John?
I think the thing we have to stop doing is sending people to that parking lot. And that has happened with the best of intentions. And it's pretty hard when you're handing out tickets and people are screaming at you, well, where can I park? Not to offer up other suggestions. The one thing that I think the OPP, our bylaw enforcement officers, and everyone else has to be mindful of is spreading the problem around and trying to be too helpful. And we ended up with a lot of people at Mono Center, Community Center, as a result of as I say, well-intentioned suggestions. I think we need to think about some signage. We're never going to stop everybody from parking in there, but I don't think we should be encouraging it. We shouldn't be posing it as an alternative when they can't get into the Parks Ontario. To come up with some signage that when there is an event at Mono Center, there's a sign put up saying parking for the event only or something of that nature. I don't know.
Okay. Sharon?
So I don't think it is our responsibility, and I heard this happen when I was up there, to give any information about where anybody could park or where another park is or any of those things. It's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to our park and to the people who live around it. And I don't think we should be handing out any information to people who come from away to help them find another place to go. That's up to them. They've got Google Maps. They can go and figure it out themselves.
Okay. So, is anyone prepared to put a motion on the floor?
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
I have a motion with regard to the fine amount. And I don't know whether to bring it under other business at the end or have it as part of this discussion. But I was getting a lot of comment over the weekend to the effect that a $50 fine is not a sufficient deterrent, that it's a price of admission. And I think that the amount should be raised, subject to the regional senior justice signing off on it. So I'll just put that out there. The other thing I think is, once we've dealt with this motion, I think we should have an update on some of the things that went on, how many tickets were handed out, and experiences of the people who were on the front line, because it was rough out there. It was really, really rough out there for our people, for the Parks Ontario people, and no doubt the OPP as well. You know, I just put the shoe on the other foot, that if I drive to Toronto to enjoy one of the amenities there, whether it be the Rogers Centre or the TSO or the ROM, I take my chances finding parking, okay? And I usually have to pay a great deal, or if I park on the street, I take the chances that I'm going to get a significant fine and or actually being towed. And I think we need to have a discussion about towing, because that's something that the OPP can order if they encounter a situation which is unsafe, or the traveled portion of the road is impeded. So that's quite a lot, but those are my thoughts.
Okay. So, yes, Ralph?
Your Honor, I'd recommend that we deal with all of the issues related to the park at this time, including John's motion to increase the fees. And I think there's also a motion that I can make if John doesn't, with respect to encouraging the park people to get the reservation system up and running as fast as possible. And we might facilitate this by contacting Sylvia Jones, who's on our behalf, if it's interested before. So I'd suggest that we could deal with all these items at the time if you approve.
Okay, so first, would you want to entertain the revised mapping that Ralph and Mike drew up, and have it as two separate motions so that John can declare a conflict on the one area?
I think that's appropriate, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Simpson, what would you have as a format for that motion?
Okay. Mark, were you about to say something?
Go ahead.
You?
I'll wait.
Okay. If council wants to amend the parking bylaw today, then we need a motion to the effect that Schedule A of the town's parking bylaw 2000-12 be amended as follows. And then if council, because the map that was shown is not the exact amendments that are being changed, we have to go into more detail than just stating as presented on map and we give it a name. You have to then add the extra items, third line north of 25 Side Road, 25 Side Road east of third line, and we have to remove third line south of Mono Center Road. So it's fairly complex. We could take 5 minutes. I can put this together and present you a resolution with it all laid out in 2 stages. All the roads that council's looking at, less third line south of County Road 8, and then a second motion that includes that. And then, of course, there'll be a third motion by the sounds of it from Deputy Mayor Carroll.
Okay. Ralph?
If we don't go into that kind of detail, I think we need to push it off to the next meeting.
Okay, Ralph?
I don't think we should push this off. I think it's of enough sufficient importance. We should move on very quickly. Mark brought up the issue of the northeast corner of the park and 2 roads that extended from it, north and east. And council, I think, didn't really make a, shall we say, a group decision on that. But I spoke and Mike spoke against that because of the likelihood that people would not access to that corner because of the stream. So if council agreed that we didn't need to do that extension to the east and to the north, then the map, I think, becomes the motion.
Okay. Sharon?
Yes to what Ralph said.
Okay. John, did you have something?
Yes, it's more a question for Mike and Fred. The county put up what they described as temporary no parking signs to the east of the Mono Center. And apparently they did so on the basis of language in their parking bylaw that gives the director of their director of public works the opportunity to declare emergency no parking without actually amending the basic parking bylaw and describing where the new zone is. Do we have anything like that that could get us over the next weekend while some of the details are being worked out? If we don't, then I think we do need to get something into place. And if I can be so bold as to suggest, I think that the big crisis area is 25th Side Road east of the park entrance down that hill. That's where it is really, really bad, what's going on now. Some of the other areas, I think, frankly, could wait, but we got to get a handle on that 25th Side Road east of the entrance.
Okay, Mark?
I was in line with Fred. I think we can certainly put a bylaw together today for you. Ralph's recommendations, I think, are fairly straightforward and would set the basis for that. Just following up on Fred Simpson's comments. The one issue I don't think we could deal with today but could take direction on is the fine increase to approach the regional justice on that. Excuse me. It's normally been we propose the fine and they tell us whether it's reasonable or not. So if you're going to be doing that, adding that on, then at least a recommended penalty should be provided to staff to approach the regional justice.
Okay, so if everybody's comfortable with that, can we let our CEO and clerk work on the proposed motion for us to consider later on in the meeting? And in the meantime, what would be the set fine proposed increase? Yes, John?
And I know it wouldn't take effect until justice approves it, but I'm going to recommend $90 with a prepayment of $80.
Okay. How does everybody else on council feel about that? Okay. All right. So yes, Fred? Simpson?
I just wanted to point out for council with respect to the northeast corner, so we're talking the third line, continuing north of 25 Side Road and 25 Side Road continuing east. of third line. Yesterday, traffic was parked up to and ticketed at the stop sign. And they were happy to walk down that distance. So they very well may be willing to walk down from north of the 25th side road.
Okay, Mike?
Your worship, thank you. So Fred, we may have some issue with those tickets because that would have been legally parked, right? Because it stops at the landfill, so.
Yeah, and they were allowed it. The only ones ticketed were the ones within 9 meters of the stop sign. The rest were permitted to stay.
So that back to Mark's question, that definitely may need to be considered. And with what Fred said, I wasn't aware of yesterday, but one thing that I'd like clarification on is the first line south of 25 in here, Ontario. It seems like we're making a stand here, and from a staff clarity, it would be nice to make that stand and make it firm and make it wholesome. And then with respect to Deputy Mayor Creelman's concern with respect to the Director of Public Works from the County of Dufferin having the ability, well, I don't know if the emergency order is the right way to attack this, but it definitely worked yesterday. I know you're potentially declaring conflict on the third line south of County Road 8, but it was brought to our attention, and it is fairly, it's skinnier than second line north of 25, I think, to put it in perspective. So I'll just leave that point with council. But yeah, I think we have 6 trailers. The potential of me getting in all these signs and in the ground over the next 2 days is not going to happen. I'd be very lucky. I might be able to drive to Cambridge and pick up the signs. But we also have to understand too, we're right in the middle of dust suppressant, and that affects our residents that don't live around the park. So we're trying to juggle this, and we for this weekend, we would definitely probably be best to exercise the same tactics we took on third line south of County Road 8 with respect to parking enforcement.
Okay. Ralph?
Your Honor, Mike, with respect to your comments about the first line, are you thinking that we should sign the first line, no parking from the 25th south to the dead end?
I'm trying to avoid coming back, and I'm trying to avoid in the hopes here that we give council something that they can say to the residents, we took a stand, we took a very serious stand, and we're concerned about the environmental impact of this area. It's not just the environmental impact to the park, although very important, but it's the impact to our residents that is happening here. And I'm just trying to be wholesome in how we approach this. I haven't heard any complaints for first line, but it's coming. And if I was to predict it, I think it's coming. And once these signs are in, they're in. And we've made council's made the stand and can stand. In my opinion, they can stand behind it. Under the circumstances that we all know that the no parking signs really don't matter when people come up. At $80, they may matter. But I think at the end of the day, council can feel comfortable that they've satisfied the residents and the environmental impact to the park to the best of our ability, because you can't sign all of Mona, or can you?
I think your answer, if I can make it brief, is yes, we signed the first line down to the terminus. And interestingly, I did have a report by a knowledgeable person that road has been used quite extensively in this recently. So I would support it. Going back to what Fred said about the people being willing to walk on the 25th, I'd like to revisit the idea of going north on the third line and east on the 25th, as Mark had suggested. I think of my own hiking experiences in my younger days. To hike 2 kilometers along a country road was kind of fun. So we don't know what's an active deterrent here, but so I'd like to know if council's happy with adding those 2 areas, or those 3 areas, I guess. The first line south of the 25th, the third line north of the 25th to 2 kilometers, and the 25th east from the third line to the next line, which is the 4th line. Any other thoughts, Francis?
Okay, John?
I was just going to say that I think Mike will use good discretion in terms of what signs he puts up first. You know, there are areas that are worse than others. Second thing is, I don't think we can afford to forget what's happening down on the Blue Heron, and to a lesser extent on the first line dead ending at the reservoir. And finally, for anyone watching, and I know a lot of people are watching, I think we need to revisit the whole issue of what do we do about our residents who could end up being caught up by our attempts to control the situation. And, you know, I don't know what to suggest there, frankly, but I'd hate to see us take actions that impinge the ability of locals who have for decades used the park, and indeed are some of the best custodians of the park insofar as picking up garbage before this comes through. So I think this is a work in progress, and it probably is going to have to be amended and adjusted as we go forward.
Okay. Yes, Sharon?
Yeah, I agree. We have to work out a way that local people can use the park, use the trails, and have company without being impeded by no parking signs. But I floated it before about having a permit. It just like our fire permit that we have that you can put in your window. I have my fire permit plasticized out by my burn pit for my branchy stuff. But so it's not that big a deal, just something else to get used to. And I think our residents would be happy to do that, to have something like that, if it means that they can be in the park and enjoy it and not be crowded out by the number of people who've been coming lately. I think no parking zones are going to keep a number of people out of there, which is a good thing. Lovely to come and visit, but I want the local people to be able to use our parks as well.
Okay, Ralph?
I requested some feedback from council so that Fred and Mark can know which streets to include, and I didn't get any feedback. I suggested that we should be considering Mike's most recent comments about the first line south of the 25th, and the area that Mark had brought up earlier in the meeting, the third line north of 25th and the 25th to the east. And we got on to some other topics. Could we please respond to this so Fred and Mark know what to include it in the motion?
Okay. Fred?
Your Worship, I've been working on a new schedule as we've been discussing this, which has got most of these changes. I haven't got them all in yet, but perhaps it's time we put this on the screen and just look at it in words as opposed to pictorially, because that's how we'll be putting it in the bylaw if you're ready for that.
Okay. We are.
Just bear with me. I've done it in Word and I can't have two Word documents open at once. And one of them are my notes for the meeting. So we just have to close one. And remember, Council, and everyone on the meeting, you can shrink the size of the icons of pictures to make the document larger. So if you can help see that. So the first two lines are the existing. Sorry, you need to split that. The first two lines are the existing no parking down at Canning Falls. We're not talking about that.
Fred, your screen is showing your office
I'm getting,
menu.
We're not showing the right screen?
No.
you're showing an email from Andrew.
Okay, let me try that again. I'm not sure why it grabbed that. I will just stop screen sharing. Maybe I grabbed the wrong program. Just- How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so the first two lines are Canning Falls. We're not talking about those. So the third line, first line, both sides, 25 side road to terminus at lot. I'm not sure what the lot number is. Mike, do you know what the lot number is there?
So that should read
22.
second, first line 25 side road. I don't know what you're talking about there, Fred.
Okay, so sorry, and maybe I've got the side road wrong there. I'm talking about monotrack here. You're talking first line and here.
I don't have the lot number. I don't have the lot number, Fred, and it'll be 25 side, first line, both sides, 25 side road south to the terminus.
Okay, so I think that's good enough for at this point. Then we've got second line, both sides, County Road 8 to terminus at lot 21. So that's to the park entrance.
Correct?
The next line will come out. We don't need that. Now we've got third line, both sides, Dufferin Road 8 to 2,000 meters north of 25 side road. That's acceptable?
Correct.
Because that could go up to 30 side road,
No, I think
but that's a long ways.
it's a long ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Above that, Fred, if we could, you could, for a complete schedule, you could put in second line, north of 25. It'd be both sides, north of 25 for a distance of 2,000 meters.
25 side road to 2,000 meters north of 25 side road. Both and 24 hours. Is that what you're looking for, Mike?
Yep, that'd be great, Fred.
Okay. I've left off on this schedule, third line south of County Road 8. 25 side road, so we're going down to the next line now. 25 side road, both sides. First line to fourth line.
That's good.
Correct?
Okay. And we haven't touched the fifth line or the seventh line. Other than that one stretch of road on third line south of County Road 8, have I missed anything?
We just missed the Mono Center Road, and we need to do that in cooperation with Dufferin County, but we don't want to lose sight of it.
So that,
Right, so that won't go in our bylaw, of course, but we will follow up with the county.
So then you have 20 side road, Fred,
Oh,
20.
Yeah.
20 side road between first line and second line, both sides.
so 20 side road. Right, of course, exactly. You're right. I did forget that one. Just bear with me. I don't want to lose this. Okay. So if this is acceptable, the motion would be that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend bylaw 2000-12, parking bylaw, Schedule A, as follows, and then I will write all of what you see on the screen on that document as part of the resolution.
Okay, Ralph.
I'd like to so move.
Okay.
I need a piece of paper.
Seconded by Sharon.
And can I discuss, please?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, Fred Simpson, that on the second line, the way this is now worded, the people, and I think they're volunteers, who cut the grass and do things in the cemetery, we will inform them now that they can come and get a permit from us to park there to do the cemetery maintenance, right?
And Mark, unless you've got other comments, I will contact Mr. Taffel and make the arrangements to have a semi-permanent signs made up.
But also for the cemetery maintenance people,
Right.
who I think is probably Mrs. Turnbull. Well, I know who it is, but it's some group that lives in the village.
And we'll certainly
And
the bylaw to make sure.
And I also take care of that stretch of trail from Burn Cemetery down to Mono Community Center for Mr. Taffel.
Okay.
I'd love it. You got a parking ticket, Fred.
Okay,
guess that-
so is that it for this particular version of the schedule?
We were recorded vote.
Sure.
Okay, so the motion has been moved and seconded and read. Councillor Mengtalo,
Yes.
Councillor Martin,
Yes,
Councillor Nix,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Creelman,
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Okay. And so then the next one will be the schedule addition of just the one item.
Yeah, so the next motion will be that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend bylaw 2000-12 parking bylaw Schedule A to add the following listed road. Third line EHS from County Road 8 to 15 Side Road. This will be parking, no parking on both sides, 24 hours.
Okay. So could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Ralph. Okay.
Question?
Yep.
Question. By 15 Side Road, okay. No, it's okay. I was thinking on the west side, it was just a road allowance, but yeah, you're going on the east side. Got it.
Okay. And so,
And Your Worship,
Yep,
If I may just confirm that Deputy Mayor Krillman is recusing himself from this vote and discussion.
I am, and I'll file the paper recusal with you.
Thank you, sir.
okay. So, yes,
Vote.
do you want a recorded vote again?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Okay, so the motion moved by Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Mantalo as read. Councillor Mantalo,
Yes.
Councillor Martin,
Yes,
Councillor Nix,
Yes.
Mayor Ryan,
yes,
motion is carried.
okay. So we have done the direction to staff regarding the increase of the fine dollars.
Your worship,
Yep,
I'm wondering whether you might want to pass a resolution that says that we direct staff to prepare a draft set fine bylaw for approval by the regional justice to increase parking fines to $90 with an early payment of $80.
okay, thank you. And could I have a mover for that? Moved by Nix and seconded by Creelman. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried with no opposition.
And Madam Mayor, just to clarify, I don't believe the fine comes into effect until after the regional senior justice signs off on it.
Correct, yeah. So there will be a pause. So, is there anything further on this item? Yes, Ralph?
Your Honor, I'd like a motion that, with respect to getting the reservation system up and running quickly. And the motion is to request that Honorable Sylvia Jones exert her influence to do this, so that there would be a letter from yourself, a motion to the letter yourself, and it would read something like this: given the events of recent weekends and the overuse of the park, and the suggestion of the Parks Ontario that a reservation system would be put in place, that we recommend that this be done as soon as possible, and would appreciate your support in carrying out this protest. That's the letter addressed to Sylvia Jones.
Okay, so do you just want to give that direction, or do you want an actual motion stating that?
I think a motion gives a touch more oomph, so let's make it a motion.
Okay. Yes, Mark?
I'm wondering whether it should be directed to Minister Yakubuski as opposed to the Solicitor General. It's going to be an MECP decision coming through the Minister of Environment and Conservation and Parks as opposed to Sylvia's office. So I'm just saying that you send it to Minister Yakubuski as opposed to the Solicitor General.
And also, we could copy Sylvia on the letter, but it's just, it should go to the minister responsible for the park.
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
The purpose of the letter was to get Sylvia behind it.
Oh, no, for sure. And we could also pen another one directly to her, bringing her attention to the fact that we've copied her on the letter to the minister. So we could do two.
That works very well.
Double it up.
A covering letter from the mayor. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay. John.
If I could make a friendly amendment, and I'm just going to sort of articulate something that I've been thinking about for some time, and that is that the Parks Ontario and Ministry websites and social media, frankly, should be downplaying or changed in such a fashion as to discourage the overuse of this park. right now, they are, to their credit, putting out tweets around 9:45 to 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, indicating that the parking lot is full. But again, I think the message has got to be on all their sites that this property has extraordinarily limited parking, and that people should check the Facebook page and or tweet page to see whether or not parking is even available before they leave to come up here.
Yeah. Okay, we can incorporate that into the letter. Yes, Ralph?
Along the same lines, Your Honor, I think we've all kind of mused about how come all these people are coming here, and some of them are coming because of trail websites and other things that they're pushing them. I would like to suggest that we do a little work in-house, and Andrew, I think, is the person to do it. That we look into what is on social media and on websites, and see if we can find out what information is out there which is pushing so many people to come here, and see what can be done appropriately with providing new information to counteract this. I think that Andrew would be an excellent person to look and maybe safe as well. But we have a problem here, and it's not hard doing it. It wouldn't occur 20 years ago when you have to get on the phone and ask your friend where to hike. Now you can get on that, and you find out one of the hikes actually says that there are 3 sites in, Mike maybe knows more about this. I think he told me, Mike, there are 3 good hiking sites in southern Ontario, and Mono Cliff is one of them.
Yeah. Okay, yes, Fred Simpson?
So to that point, we can try, but we do have to be careful. This is not our park. So we have to be careful of not running afoul of MECP by saying, Mono Council is telling you not to go to MECP's park. But we will endeavor to do what we can.
We get the information of what's going on, and we can decide what is within our, appropriate to do.
Because even MECP wasn't discouraging people that hard coming to the park by making it free yesterday.
Yeah. Yes, Fred Nix?
Yeah, this is all fine. I just find something ironic in the fact that what we are doing, and we have to do it, and in the meantime, we have a county that has a tourism program that lists Mono Cliffs Park on it. So my taxes are paying both the town of Mono to inhibit or prevent people coming here and parking, and they're paying the county taxes to encourage people to come here and hike and explore our provincial parks. I just find it a bit ironic. Maybe our county reps should bring it up at county council. Do we really need a tourism department?
Thank you. Yes, John?
I was going to say that my comments about rephrasing or reframing the amenity on websites and social media would apply equally to the county and to ourselves, for that matter, as they would and should to the province and Parks Ontario. It's not that you're discouraging so much as you're cautioning people that there is a limited capacity of this park and an even more limited parking opportunity nearby.
Okay. Okay, so Mark.
Sorry, my apologies. So just so we're clear at a staff level, we will remove the signage at the Mono Center Community Center with the previous overflow and put new signage up discouraging parking at the facility. We won't be blocking up, but we'll be discouraging parking at the facility.
Okay. I think that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Yes, Mike?
I just have one outstanding issue. We currently have a road closed by emergency order, and I wondered if we were going to lift that or what the plan was with that.
Well, the emergency order was very useful yesterday. That certainly relieved a lot of the pressure on enforcement and remove the burden on one particular area, allowed more surveillance on the rest of the area. What do you think, Mr. Simpson, regarding the emergency order?
Well, the emergency order was very effective. We didn't have any problems on the third line once the cars that were there had time to leave after the order was put up. So it did achieved its goal of reducing the trouble spot. I personally I recommend that it stay in place until such time that no parking signs are installed, so that we can then enforce it that way. I think it's of minimal disruption to the local residents.
Yes, Fred?
I hear you, Fred Simpson, but then that means we in effect are blocking people from getting to the third line parking lot for the park, right?
I monitored that road myself on 3 different times yesterday, and only once did I come across people taking that route. So yeah, some people were trying to find their way to the park along that stretch of road, but it's by no means the most common way of getting to the park.
The third line.
The third line between County Road 8 and 15 Side Road.
Okay. The other comment I was going to make, Your Worship, is if we're still on the parking issue, would this be the time and place to discuss anything about our plans for next weekend, specifically whether we should contract with the OPP again, or is that inappropriate right now? I don't. Do we have to talk about our plans for next weekend?
And that's a good question. I was just wanting to make sure it's clear about the order being left in place. And then I was going to ask Mr. Simpson to discuss potential plans because of hiring, security, enforcement, etc. But before I do that, I'd like to ask Councillor Martin.
Could we let the people know that are on the third line from the 15th, maybe even before that, from the 15th to County Road 8, let them know that what's going on, because there was a lot of confusion and a lot of concern, and 3 people contacted me. That's pretty amazing, and about the one thing. But I think I explained it well enough, but I don't know how we let them know, but
Okay.
it might be helpful.
Mike?
You're mute.
Mute.
One thing that I definitely could do is cover up the by police order, because this is actually, now they're actually breaking the law by passing the signs, even if they're local traffic. So that needs to be changed to local traffic. I don't have a sign that says by emergency order, but that's definitely one thing that could be changed. And I wondered if council, the signage is not going to happen by this weekend, I can guarantee that. And I wondered if council would entertain expanding that emergency order, or Your Worship, if you would entertain expanding that emergency order to 25 Side Road from first line to third line, and second line from 25 to 30 Side Road.
Is everybody all right with that? Yes, John?
I just return to my point that it's the hill on the 25th Side Road that presents the biggest problem. And if I had 10 signs to put up and that's all I could do between now and this time next week. That's where I'd focus my energies.
So I'll return a comment to council Wednesday, Thursday, and let you know where I sit with the signs inventory.
Yes.
Just to the issue of next weekend, maybe we could have a report on how effective our enforcement was this weekend, and that would give us some indication as to whether it's a good value to hire the officers.
Right, okay, so we'll just finish off with the order being in place as it is now, and the consideration, if Mike is unable to get enough signs in and still has a concern, I want to let council members know that I would entertain the expansion of those certain areas for road closures. So that's sort of advance warning for you. So, okay, Fred Simpson, can you give us a report on how the operations plan went?
Absolutely. I just want to mention, though, Your Worship, do we still have Councillor Mantelo's motion on the floor? Should that be finished, or?
Well,
I
yeah.
believe I'm not sure it was even moved and seconded yet. I kind of lost track as I was opening my mouth.
So I think what we should do then is the motion should be in the form of the mayor being directed to send a letter to the minister regarding concerns, et cetera, and with the online booking system, and you know. And so I'll need somebody to move that motion for direction for the letter to be sent. Moved by Martin and seconded by Freelman. So you're all right, Fred? Okay. Okay, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor, or sorry, anybody opposed? Nobody's opposed. That's good.
We're missing one counselor.
Well, he had a number of different things that were going to happen, so he knew he was going to have to get up and come back, etc. So hopefully he returns. But if Fred Simpson wants to start with a report.
So council received my daily sit reps for every day except for last night. Parking, the general intent of putting up a deterrence for the most part worked right up until it didn't. And so Saturday went pretty good. Things were generally under control for the most part at all times. Sunday, the same thing. It started off very well. We maintained control up until we had that incident at the Monocliffs parking lot in mid-afternoon. During the time that the police and OPP responded to that incident, things fell apart because everyone coming and going, all the vehicles just took advantage of not having that presence there. And it took over 3 hours to regain control of the third line from mid-afternoon on Sunday. That's also when things were getting out of control on the third line south of Mono Center Road. And myself and Mike spoke about that Sunday evening. And then, as you know, come Monday morning, when we saw the vehicles were already parking there by 8 o'clock, we spoke again. And then I called the mayor and made the recommendation that we institute the emergency order. I did that because after talking to the police, they were reluctant to issue an order themselves under the Highway Traffic Act to close the road without there actually being an existing problem. And it was actually one of the constables that questioned out loud if the town had the authority under COVID. And of course, because we are in a state of emergency, that's the route that we took. Control was kept pretty well yesterday, but the volume of traffic was just a magnitude of order greater than the previous 2 days. It was the last day, of course, of the long weekend, and the weather was spectacular. So while nothing got out of control, there was extensive parking beyond the limit of all the no parking zones. But I would say at no time was it actually a safety hazard. The police responded fabulously. I got an email Sunday night from Sergeant Jellick stating that he was going to be providing a third officer. So Constable Mikowski, who I think everyone knows, was available the entire day. Plus we had the 2 paid duty, and we were at full strength on bylaw enforcement. Our plan for the day was pretty much as it had been through the entire weekend. We did have a number of instances where, you know, there was pushback from drivers to both OPP and our staff. One of our bylaw enforcement officers actually called 911 because he was concerned for his physical safety. But it never, the person backed off after that. So I can't say enough for the support that we got from the police, from the park. And I certainly can't say enough about our bylaw enforcement. Keep in mind, both of our new officers signed on with the town of Mono on Friday afternoon at about 1 o'clock and spent the entire weekend out there. Our staff was in the field shortly after 9, and they never left until 6:30 or later each day of all 3 days of the long weekend. So I can't say enough about them. For the coming weekend, I do not yet have a plan. One of the things that did not work was communications. We knew cell phones were going to be an issue, and the handheld radios didn't work. You couldn't communicate, you know, from second line over to third line. And much of our plan was predicated on being able to rapidly move people around to respond to problems. And we couldn't rapidly move. It could take hours to get a message from one person to another. I don't have an answer for that. I also don't feel that I can put 3 people back into the field this weekend. Eugene hasn't had a weekend off since before Easter. I think I can get 2 people in the field. My question to council is, does council authorize continued paid duty?
If I can interject here, I think that we need to continue to provide that extra surveillance until such time as we get a handle on what's going to be happening. If the reservation system gets up and running for the park, then that might help alleviate a certain amount. But until such time as people get the idea that we are not amused with their parking habits, etc., and their habits in general, I think we still have to maintain, even if it's for a month, until we get a better handle on what's going to happen. Because to say that this was an off, or it's because it was a long weekend, it's got, as we all know, it's got more to do with the pandemic and the lockdown. And so until such time as things start to open up, I think we have to have that kind of support. So, anybody else want to comment on that? Yes, John?
I was just going to ask Brett if he could give us an indication of the number of tickets handed out, because a number of people are under the impression that as we ramp up our enforcement, that costs are going to climb. Likewise with the installation of signage. But my belief still is that the number of tickets that have been handed out more than cover our costs, at least for the enforcement. and the highest percentage of those tickets, in fact, are paid out.
So I don't have a count on the tickets issued yesterday yet. I'm afraid that if we are effective in what we're trying to achieve, which is by having a deterrence, we stop the illegal parking, then actually we weren't issuing that many tickets. Until things got out of hand, we weren't. Now, with the change in the regime, not this weekend, because we won't have expanded no parking zones, we probably are not covering our costs with tickets, but I don't have any firm data yet. Because the goal is to stop the problem, not issue a ticket once we already have a problem. And we were, for the most part, achieving that.
Okay. Mark, you had a comment?
Yeah, Fred, I don't know if you saw, there was an email from Eugene saying he only issued about 14 yesterday, and that the OPP had, and that was on the county road, sorry, and that the OPP had issued a few. So it sounded like it was down significantly from the day before.
Yeah, and it was, because it was more under control. I know tickets were issued third line south of or north of County Road 8 up to the southern limit of the parking area. I'm guessing 30 or 40 might have been issued along there. I don't think a single ticket was issued on second line 20 Side Road and up to the terminus, because we had staff there all day. And then we cover off 25 Side Road intermittently, and there's probably some tickets issued there, but not many. Because most of the parking was outside of the no parking zone, as was pointed out. It was on 25 Side Road East, leading into the S-curve.
Okay.
Is it fair to say, though, that the reports of 200 tickets, at least for a few of the days, are accurate? Maybe not each day, but in total?
Yeah, that's accurate for Sunday. Saturday was fewer tickets, and as we discussed, Monday was fewer. But yeah, we were in the neighborhood of 200 on Sunday, and that ties in completely with the idea that as we lost control, then we're reactive, and the ticket is a reactive step, not a proactive step. So the more tickets you see, the worse things are going out there.
Okay. And so you still have concerns regarding staffing the following weekend, this weekend coming up. So are you in a position possibly by Wednesday, Thursday, that you would be able to communicate back to council what your plan is, or what are you thinking?
So I'll have 2 bylaw enforcement officers in the field on the weekend, barring, something unusual, illness or along that lines. I'd like to have a minimum of 2 OPP. I will be having a meeting with Park Superintendent, hopefully this afternoon. As recommended by Mike, we're going to talk about whether we can get on their communications network and if that would be helpful. But even failing that, I'd like to have 2 officers minimum and our 2 staff in the field, and we will do whatever we can do with those resources.
Okay.
And I will have a plan later in the week when I put all those people together.
Okay, great. Any other questions of Fred on this? Seeing none then, so I guess we've got everything that you need then, Fred?
Just confirmation on the paid duty.
Yeah. So I think that we need to do this. It's a cost for safety, and we can't ignore that this problem exists. So I think we need to continue until such time as we feel we have a better handle on what's going on, just the same way as the emergency closures as required for the same reason. And then we'll just hopefully be able to work through, and maybe we'll get some kind of information from the Ontario Parks as to whether or not they consider a cap of entries, and see whether or not they're even thinking of closing the park at some point just to recoup, similar to what they did in the Badlands, close that off specifically until they have it reconfigured so that you can't damage it. So, okay, so if we're comfortable moving ahead, we'll go on to Section 6, Bylaws, Correspondence, New Business. So the first item is to review of the virtual meeting platforms, and Andrew has provided us with a report. Is there anything that you wanted to add to your report, Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to highlight that in the comparison table, a lot of them were coming across as quite similar. There were some that have some additional nice-to-have features. Another thing is some of them do have the capability to live stream directly through the platform itself. Right now, what we're doing is we're leveraging the AV equipment installation in council chambers to achieve a live stream of our meetings. I'm not sure if having it integrated within the software directly is something that we would use, because I'm not sure if it would allow us to go into in-camera the way that we're doing now, in which we don't send a video feed to the live stream, and instead we put up a graphic saying that we're in camera or on break, on recess, whatever we need to do.
Okay. Thank you for providing us comprehensive information. Any comments from council members? Yes, John?
Andrew, as I understand it, these platforms all involve a number of licenses or a number of sessions. Where do we stand in terms of GoToMeeting, such that if we decided to switch to Zoom as an example, we could do so without leaving behind a number of sessions that we've paid for?
Well, currently we purchased 7 licenses, and that was on an annual basis. I'm not exactly sure when that would be up. I'd have to, I think Les was on the billing for that I could coordinate with him to see. But ideally what I think we'd want to do is kind of overlap the two a little bit to allow a transition period.
Okay. The second question I have, and my personal preference, I think more of us are accustomed to Zoom and may have had better experiences with Zoom. But that's just me. The other question I have is, I've had a number of people comment on the current process of submitting questions in advance and not being able to be on the platform as in real time as we meet. I'm presuming that's just a decision that we made at some point, but I think we should potentially reconsider it. Is it easier to do on Zoom or harder to do on GoToMeeting?
To address your first point first, within my recommendation, I did acknowledge that Zoom is fairly familiar and fairly ubiquitous now for video conferencing solutions as a whole. So it definitely would be a good platform to transition if we were to select one. The other point is it wouldn't be any easier to use Zoom. What we're doing right now is people can either submit a question online that gets asked, or they can request to join the meeting. And when they request to join the meeting, I send out all of the information that they can join via Chrome or by downloading the app. I don't expect that that switching over to Zoom would change any of that process.
Yes, Mark?
And that's primarily due to security in controlling who is coming in and utilizing your service.
Okay, Ralph?
So, Your Honor, Andrew, presently if somebody joins the meeting, they show up on the screen that we're all looking at. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. They'll show up as a video tile if they have their camera enabled. If they don't have a camera or don't wish to share, then they show up on this platform just as a tile with their initials, or in the attendees panel as a caller if they dial in by phone.
So is it correct then that most people are watching us through our YouTube connection?
So can you repeat that? I didn't quite get it.
Sure. Is it correct that most people who are observing the council meeting are doing so through the YouTube connection?
Yes, that's correct. Most people are either watching it live or watch it after the fact, it seems.
The only comment I have is about a really terrible experience I had with the Board of Health meeting 2 meetings back, and we were using Zoom, and we had a lot of people that signed in, and I think it was about 30 people, and so it was felt that had downgraded the quality of the program. In fact, it downgraded to the point that I had to get off and give up. So maybe all the programs are like that, but if we went to a situation where we had 35 public taking part, that's probably a situation we haven't had, and maybe we don't need to consider it, but I just mentioned that it was a real problem for me.
Yeah, it's in the beginning when we first adopted a GoToMeeting, they did put out a disclaimer not to start a meeting directly at 9 or 12 just because they were working on maintenance to upgrade their servers. And I think a lot of the video conferencing solutions had to send out similar messages just to help their own server scale appropriately over time. I'm sure that I'm not too sure what might have been the cause of that particular one, but I'm sure that all of the solutions at some point may do some maintenance or may encounter an instance in which they're a little bit overloaded on their end, especially if video conferencing becomes a more commonplace thing.
Okay. So we need to give direction on this. What? Yes, Fred. You're on mute.
I appreciated your report, Andrew. It's clear to me you've done a lot of research on this, but I would have to confess that when I got down to your chart, this is all over my head. I'm prepared to accept whatever Andrew thinks we should do, and that would be my recommendation, because this isn't something I'm competent to talk about.
Yes, Fred Simpson.
So, Andrew, one question which I should have asked you previously. With Zoom, do we have is there a screen set that show only those who have their cameras on, like there is in GoToMeeting?
Yes, I believe so. And there's also the ability to pin certain cameras so that they're always on screen, which might be helpful during screen sharing sessions or the like. So we do have that option, and even multiple people can be pinned.
And I do believe our contract is month by month, Your Worship.
Okay. Fred?
Can I ask Andrew another question then? When I use Zoom for a meeting, and I don't know if my laptop or software, I only see the picture of the person talking. I cannot see the whole group. Everybody else can see the whole group, but I can't. So that would be my one concern with Zoom. maybe it's just me. Maybe I have to learn how to do something, but.
Yeah, there's different, there's different buttons that you can hit. So you just have to know which ones to use.
That's what everyone tells me, and I hit all the buttons and nothing works. I only see the person who's talking.
Okay, so what kind of direction would you like to give to staff?
I've already suggested, I'm prepared to do whatever Andrew thinks we should do.
Okay, I see Sharon is nodding. Ralph?
Well, I don't hear a problem that's going to be fixed. So I'm in a position of saying, why change something that's working for us, and we all know how to work it. I have a real problem with not Zoom, but the other one that I use, the NECA. It's a disaster. And it's probably me just not being familiar with it. I'm familiar with this one, and I could work as well. So my question to Andrew is there a real problem here that we can deal with by going to another program such as Zoom?
Yes, Sharon?
My only problem is I can hardly hear Ralph now.
But that's probably his iPad or,
Exactly.
yeah.
Is that better, Sharon?
No, you always sound muffled, so the microphone maybe needs to be tweaked or something. John?
I didn't hear Andrew's answer to my question, Ronna.
Okay, Andrew, do you have an answer?
I have a funny feeling that we'd always encounter various issues that coming up, hardware not being as set up, or even some other conflict. I imagine that if we transition, the same sort of workarounds of using dial-in by phone would have to be leveraged. But well, I have used Zoom. I haven't used it enough to see all of the different issues that may come into play. But so I think that we'd experience a lot of what we have seen so far with the issues that have come up on GoToMeeting. We might just get some additional software features, and with the ubiquity of Zoom, we might have more people who understand it and who know how to configure this setup to connect successfully.
Okay, John?
If it's of interest, Zoom is now the platform used by the Ontario courts. So I'm every week into courtrooms with upwards of 30, 40 people. And we haven't, at least I haven't experienced any difficulties. It is very similar to GoToMeeting, both in terms of the layout format. And there seems to be a few other features maybe that it has that I haven't discovered yet, but I'm easy with Andrew making a decision on this.
Okay. So I guess it's going to be up to you, Andrew, what you'd like to do next. Council will deal with whatever you give us.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay. So we're on to this budget amendment for the Public Works vehicle purchase. And that information was provided by Les. So unless there's any questions of Les, we have a motion that council authorizes the purchase of the 2015 John Deere 772 GP grader, and that council approves a budget amendment of transferring from the Public Works vehicle and equipment reserve to fund this purchase. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, that's carried.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Thank you, Les. Seniors Month.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Yes?
I was wondering if we could maybe, at this point in time, head back to unfinished business, item number 3. There was another memo that was missed during this conversation. First line, no parking from Dufferin County Road 8 to
Okay.
I'm asking council if we can extend the northern side of Cannings Falls to County Road 8. I don't need to get into the issues. I think council's well aware of what's happening.
Yeah,
And,
I'll move that. We forgot to deal with that, your worship.
Right.
So I'll move it. If Fred Simpson, right up to the County Road 8.
It's just not far enough, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second item inside of that is I'd like to, with council permission, is work with the Bruce Trail on some signage at 10 Side Road and County Road 8 to try and stop people at the corner and let them know that the Cannings Falls are closed. It's private property. Probably not even say Cannings Falls. We'll just say the Bruce Trail property is closed, and see how that comes with the Bruce Trail.
Okay. So Fred Simpson, the first motion, do you have that in hand?
So just to confirm then, we're extending it all the way up to County Road 8? So then we've got a motion that states that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend bylaw 2000-12 parking bylaw Schedule A to revise no parking on first line to read, did I get this right? First line EHS, both sides, and it's terminus at lot 12 to County Road 8, 24 hours.
Okay. So that's moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed? That's carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And then the next one regarding the signage at the intersection, Motor Center Road in the first line. So Fred Simpson, are you still there?
Your worship, do we need a motion on that? Can't we just instruct staff to work with the Bruce Trail and signage?
Are you all right with that, Mike?
That's perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, council.
Okay, so we'll do direction on that then. Okay. So now June is Seniors Month, and so Kim has provided us with a report on June 1st webinars. And Kim, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to express to council that this partnering with the Oshawa Seniors Community Center is just a great initiative in order to provide this type of programming for our seniors. It's something that we're not able to do. We've got some internet challenges at our community centers that prohibit us being able to do this type of thing. So this is an awesome alternative to be able to get this type of programming out to our residents as well. You know, there's work behind the scenes that's being done by myself and one of our RAC committee members, Melinda, and we're working diligently with this group to be able to assist them in these programming ideas. There is a survey about to come out in the next day or so that we'll be putting up on our website that we encourage Mono residents to fill in, and it will be in regards to whether or not they are even interested in participating in this type of programming initiative. And if they are, what type of programs would they like to see? What length would they like them to be? So hopefully we'll get as many residents as possible who will respond to that so that we can provide what they're looking for.
Okay. Yes, Fred Nix?
Yeah, Kim, I'm not quite sure I understand what we're supposed to do. Do we click into these things? And in particular, summer beer is here. How do they do that virtually?
Well, you'll just have to go in on June 1st and take a look at it.
You get a knock at your door, Fred.
Okay, yes, Sharon?
Kim, I think I missed a bit about how we're letting seniors know. How are we letting them know that this is available? Did I miss that?
What we've got is our social media. It'll be on that. Again, one of the reasons I put it on the council agenda was as a means of letting people know through the council meeting. It'll be on our website, of course. Yeah, I'm taking every possibility I can to try and get it out there to let people know that this is going on. So again, I encourage you, if you could, share it with your friends and family members, that would be great, and ask them to share it as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. And on to, well, I'm just wondering, do you want to take a 5-minute break? Is that okay? So we'll break for 5 minutes. Okay, thank you, Andrew. So we'll continue on with our agenda. Item number 4, Dufferin County Official Plan Review. Dave Prutman, are you still online? There you are.
I'm here, Mayor Ryan. I don't think it needs too much by way of explanation or introduction. There's a meeting, I guess, for the benefit of those listening, a special meeting, which is a statutory meeting under the Planning Act in front of Dufferin County Council June 8th regarding the Dufferin County Official Plan Update, otherwise known as the MCR, acronym for Municipal Comprehensive Review. So they're going to undertake a review of some key items there, which I've indicated in my memorandum, be it growth, be it natural heritage, agricultural, etc. And I think there's going to be discussion which will form the basis of probably sort of more specific or technical terms of reference for background reports that will be reviewed with the approval authority, that is the good province of Ontario, Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and of course with Dufferin County and their consultant team, their lead consultant, WSP. So it's really an informational memorandum generally for council.
Okay, thank you. Do you know what time that meeting's scheduled for?
10 a.m. in the morning.
Perfect. Yes, Fred.
So, David, is there going to be any impact on our own official plan?
Ultimately, yes, because we will have to have an official plan that conforms with the updated Dufferin County official plan. And in turn, it is undergoing review presently in order to show and have conformity with provincial policy, the updated provincial policy statement, the updated growth plan.
Do you anticipate any significant changes, like our prime agricultural areas, our growth target, our conservation authority regulated areas, our Niagara Escarpment Plan areas?
So
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
With respect to our natural heritage resources in Mono, we have, as council is well aware, approved our own local natural heritage strategy, otherwise known as Official Plan 41. That was back in July 2018, if memory doesn't escape me. And so there has been meetings as well. As an aside, there's been a number of staff level meetings amongst the lower tier municipality planning staffs and Dufferin County and the consultant, and infrequently, but on occasion, with municipal affairs and OMAFRA, Ministry of Agricultural reps present. And notwithstanding what other lower tiers have indicated to those good folks, I've always said, well, we have our OPA 37, which is the approved prime agricultural review. Back in 15, it was approved by the ministry in 2015, and OPA 41. And I've said more than once that, we expect our local NHS strategy, OPA 41, to form the mono piece of the puzzle with respect to the upper tier natural heritage review. And I think at this point in time, also the same with our agricultural review. Now, the province ministries have shown broader applications for both prime ag and natural heritage. But I think it's fair to say that our detailed work done by our good steering committee with some very well knowledgeable folks on board, we rely on the detailed analysis that we undertook as part of both, and certainly the one I was involved with, which was the NHS OPA 41. As for growth, rural municipality, I don't think we're going to see a lot of growth. As I said, there's pies of growth out there. The York Region pie is bigger than the probably Peel pie, which is bigger than the Durham pie, maybe, which is bigger than the Dufferin pie. And of course, in each case, the majority of the growth is allocated to existing towns and cities, other urban settlements with existing full municipal services. So as a lower tier, I don't think we expect, nor would we expect to see, any real significance in change of numbers on the growth side. And then that's contiguous with the growth plan. The majority, and the vast majority, we'll say, of growth goes to existing settlements with full municipal services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no questions further of David, we have a motion that council receive the planning memorandum dated May 25th, 2021, and that council instructs the director of planning to bring a report back to council respecting the special I think we should say regarding the special Dufferin Council meeting to be held June 8th, 2021. Could I have a mover? Anybody? Moved by Mangtalo, seconded by Nix. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And the Dufferin County Community Safety and Well-Being Plan that was circulated in your package. Very comprehensive report. Is there any questions regarding this? So that being said, we have a motion that the County of Dufferin report dated April 22nd, 2021, titled Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Update 3 be received, and that county and council approve the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Mangtalo. And is there any questions, comments? Call for the vote then. Is anyone opposed? That's carried. And the next one is motion from Deputy Mayor Creelman. Would you like to bring this forward?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I'm having an iPad failure to pull up my own motion. So I'm going by way of memory here, but this is essentially to get the ball rolling on an appropriate wording and philosophical approach to what are ubiquitously called monster homes. And I think we've seen examples of that, and we can anticipate more situations involving oversized homes, both in terms of how they are sited on properties. And this is not to say that they can't be built. Of course they can be built, but the intent is to get some kind of rigor into the approval process. Thank you. Is the attempt to get some rigor into the approval process so that we have something akin to a site plan approach to residences of a certain size. And I leave it up to Dave to come up with the details on this. But one of the important aspects of the motion is that while we're waiting on his recommendations, that when we get municipal approval applications for such homes, that there be a gentle discussion with the applicants with a view to encouraging such things as appropriate setbacks, landscaping, and so forth. So I recommend this to council. Again, it's to trigger a process and get public debate going. So far, I've been gratified by the kind of responses that I've received to the proposition that we need to get a handle on this situation.
Okay. So you're moving the motion. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Martin. And is there any further discussion? Yes, Ralph?
You're muted, Ralph.
You're muted.
Thank you. Better. Thanks for bringing this up, John. I strongly support it. I wish we had it before we had that ugly structure which was built at the corner of the 2nd and the 5th. One of the things that I just asked this question for probably to David for information. You indicated that it'd be useful to use the site plan approval that is currently used for commercial industrial facilities. So in supporting that, I don't know what the difference is from that from the site plan approval for residential. I suspect it's complex, but can you just sort of summarize what is the difference between a site plan approval for industrial institutional compared with residential?
Well, site plan approval looks at zoning performance standards such as height, setbacks, lot coverage, number of entrances, amount of parking outlets, etc. All these design elements are, to put it in a sentence, the zoning bylaw says, here's what you need to have, whatever the zone might be, with respect to those provisions. The site plan says, show me where they are. Show me the flavor of them, if you will, and show me where they are on the overall development. Fundamentally, the difference between, say, what is called ICI, institutional commercial industrial uses versus residential, you know, there might be some more urban design related review at a commercial level or institutional level, whereas at a residential and industrial, you know, it may be more just limited to parking and entrance and those sort of things. But again, site plan approval for residential is generally for medium and high density. It hasn't generally been used for low density because low density doesn't necessarily have the amount of parking or the amount of parking or the number of entrance ways and things of this nature that would be associated with higher density residential. So right currently, the main tool being used for low density and to what Deputy Mayor Kremlin is alluding to is, you know, the monster home scenario is through coverage, even gross floor area maximum sizes based on maybe ranges of lot sizes. I think that's what Amaranth does, I believe. And then where there's non-settlement residential, lot coverage can range anywhere from 5 to 15% generally. I believe ours is 15%. If that answers your question, I don't know if it did.
I'm getting the flavor of it a bit. Is it required to bring a proposal to council if we're looking at a site plan approval for commercial or institutional?
I'm sorry, Councilman, I didn't really hear you very well.
Is it a requirement of,
That's better.
Of a commercial or industrial application that it be brought before council?
Not always. In larger municipalities where they get larger volumes of site plan review, often it's a delegated process, but of course they probably got teams of planners to deal with that. They'd have a site plan planner on staff to deal with what is normally called a delegated approach. However, there is a caveat in that if the applicant, so let's say the planning staff of X municipal XYZ says we want these urban design standards, we want certain landscaping standards, etc., and the applicant says box and says I think that's excessive, either staff or the applicant can, as they say, bump it up to council. Or where there is a significant application, certainly say, for example, the RVH hospital in Barrie, that was automatically going to go to council regardless. So larger institutional, just by way of an example, would generally go directly to council irrespective of a delegated approach.
It may be one of the things we'd like to consider is that some of these monster homes could be made, the application should be made known to council so that there was an opportunity to comment or affect.
I'm sorry, Councillor Meckel, I didn't quite hear you. If you just get closer to your
Your
microphone.
Worship, I heard the question.
Okay.
Sorry, Dave. Just to go back to what David had said, yes, all ICI approvals in the town of Mono go through council in some way, shape, or form. It's either through waiving the requirement for a site plan agreement because it's minor and we have a site plan agreement in effect, or it's a formal site plan agreement. So they are, it's a fresh build, and those are all coming through council. As far as residential, you'd have to change your bylaw and you'd have to determine what the standards are going to be. But if you determine that anything within those standards requires a site plan agreement, then yes, those will all be going to council and there will be delays to people building houses.
Thank you.
So it just, you know, there's two sides to the coin, that if we're putting someone through a site plan approval, I don't think we should be dealing with the complaints for the process that they need to go through.
Okay. Fred Nix?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to this, John. I don't understand. I guess I don't quite understand the problem. Could someone tell me what a monster home is? Is it over a certain number of square feet, or I think I heard Ralph mention the one at the Second Line and 5 Side Road. It's big, but I mean, let's say it did have to come to us for site plan control. I'm still sitting here thinking, what would we have said? Your house is too big, or you need to plant shrubs? What?
Yeah, if it meets coverage, it meets coverage. So to me, it's a coverage matter. Site plan deals with the elements rather than the standards itself. So in a case where
do we have monster homes in Mono?
Yes.
Yes.
all right,
Well,
there's some large ones.
You know, Dave is using the term lot coverage. I would say it's also scale. We've got, you know, we had a proposal for a 20,000 square foot house to replace the 12,000 square foot house that was on the property. It was in the NEC. There was never an appeal. None of the neighbors have ever complained. Most people don't even know it's there. The one on 5 Side Road was a barren lot. It was actually a lot addition. It was a very tiny lot, and they added additional land to it. It's wide open. It's a big home, and it takes up the landscape as you're driving by. So I think in that regard, a monster home, when we have a look at it and bring it back, I think it's going to be a matter of scale and a matter of lot coverage, and then how you want to treat that on those lots. I think that's got to be the first trigger. It's a matter of scale, because a 10,000 square foot house on 2 acres is a lot different than a 10,000 square foot house on 100 acres.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sharon, did you have something?
No, Mark just said it all. Thanks.
Okay. John?
Mark said it all, and I would only add to that there's also the issue of setback. One can choose to build right next to the road, or one can choose to build on a more appropriate portion of the 100 acres that doesn't impinge upon the neighbors. And I think it's all about scale. And I deliberately did not put a square footage into this motion because, frankly, I don't know what that is. I bet there's some good examples out there, but that would be an obvious trigger. Coverage would be an obvious trigger. And then we have to decide the issues of you know, appropriate setback and so forth. The setback is, I think, really important because, you know, people may be inclined to build closer to a roadway than they need to, for whatever reason. But, you know, we know of one really good example of why something should be in place. And I don't like singling out a particular residence or family, but, you know, it's a cautionary tale, and I think we're going to have more of this as an issue going forward.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, the motion is on the floor. And seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Is there anyone opposed? So that's carried. Okay, so now we're on to Schedule A. Fred, do you have anything on Schedule A?
Yes, I do, but just give me a second. I guess the easiest way is to go back up. Okay, there was a couple of things. One, that report, Ralph, I'm asking you about this. Let me just find another conservation authorities. I mean, I read that. And maybe you don't have an answer, but let me put this on the record, okay? I can't find it. I still have concerns with what the province is doing here. And let me give you from that report, I understand by the end of this year, the conservation authorities have to have the list of their programs listed, and then they will start entering into agreements with municipalities in terms of those that are not mandatory. So I read this, and the report makes sense, but here's where I think we could run into problems. Take, for example, the planting of trees. That's not a mandatory service, or okay, it's not a core mandate. So I know from experience, you're going to have some municipalities. I'll make this up, okay, and maybe reasonable heads will prevail. But you take a place like Barrie, which is in 2 conservation authorities, and they may look at that and say, hey, we don't need conservation authorities planting trees here in the city of Barrie, so we're not going to pay that portion of the levy, and we'll enter in our agreement with the 2 conservation authorities. We don't want that service. Here's the problem. That means basically the rural municipalities will be paying the conservation authorities for tree planting services. And what that overlooks is planting trees out in Springwater benefits the people in Barrie as much as, or more than it does the people in Springwater. So they've got, okay, that's just one example. I mean, the forests here in Mono, about 41% of our land mass, clean the air and keep the water clean for all kinds of people that don't live in Mono, including the residents of Shelburne and Orangeville, and even for that matter, the GTA. So I think there's something wrong in what the province is doing here. Let me give you another example. Again, this is a made-up example. I'm not saying it will happen, but after 27 years on the Conservation Authority and seeing some of the bun fights that could develop, I can almost guarantee you that somewhere in the province, there's going to be these bun fights that develop. Let's look at our relationship with the NVCA. We do not send any children to their outdoor education program, okay? But our levy covers some portion of the cost of that program. So when they come to strike a deal, a municipal agreement with us, we could look at them and say, no, we don't want outdoor education. We're not going to pay for it. We could say that. I hope we don't. But the short-sightedness of that is wherever our children get education on conservation and nature, it benefits all of society, okay? So that's the type of bun fights that may break out, Ralph, if this thing goes ahead. The only other comment I'd make on that document is I don't, and maybe I didn't read it carefully enough, these civilian review committees that they're going to set up, what the heck are they going to do? All right, I'm not sure that was a question to you, Ralph, but it's a concern I have with this report, which I can't quite find. I'll find it in a second. But Ralph, if you got any comments, I'd be interested to hear from you. Yes, it's number 3 in Schedule A.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes, these are really good comments, Fred, and I agree with their problems. I don't know how they're going to solve them, and so I won't go on and on.
Okay. You're on
Can I
the,
ask Mark or somebody, Because I know TRCA did approach us last year and have a meeting with staff about the beginnings of this agreement, or what the agreement would look like. I've sort of never really heard back what happened. Has the NVCA, or do we know of Credit Valley, have they started the process of, and the other thing, maybe I'll ask Mark this, is as a town, are we going to insist that the agreements we enter into with 3 conservation authorities, are they going to have to be identical? Or is that or does it make our life overly complicated if they're not identical?
Go ahead, Mark.
When we met with TRCA, they were awaiting this proposal to come out. I have been approached by Deborah Martin Downs, the CAO at CVC, and I've copied in Doug up at NVCA. So CVC, they've asked me to sit down with them and senior staff regarding what an agreement may look like down the road. TRCA was specifically not mentioned. I will go back to my original comments to them over a year and a half ago, saying that we really don't want 3 different agreements. So, so Doug and Deborah are certainly on board, and I'll be setting up a meeting with them shortly. It was just last week I got a call from Deborah. So we'll be going down that road. We'll be bringing more information back to council as this, as we work through this. But your comments are quite right, that there is a lot of benefit for stormwater management and tree planting that occurs upstream of the major communities, that benefits them that they really have no clue. So,
I mean, restoration of wetlands is not going to be a core program, but, well, I've said it all. My same comments with forest. I had another one on Schedule A, Your Worship, item number 5. I'd just like to put on the record that I was not impressed with that letter.
Okay. And Sharon?
Okay, because I'm using my phone, I can't see the numbers, so,
Okay.
the site plan amendment for the license, 12253 under the Agri Resources Act, I also can't get to the document on my phone. So could somebody fill me in on what that means, what's happening there?
Mark?
yeah, I've got it. It's very tiny on mine. So this is an amendment. If you recall, it was started probably 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, with CVC. So it allowed for reduction in setbacks towards the reservoir without going in camera. There's some quid pro quo there, and I don't know where that is in the public at CVC's end. So I'll endeavor to get you that and forward it without putting my foot in my mouth. The other aspect is it does allow for mixing of product on site, which is something that they had asked for previously, and we were controlling that with them. They've got approval through MNR for that. That is a minor amendment. To follow up, while we're on the topic, I have received the reports from the landowner regarding the fill that has been brought in for the rehabilitation. It's on a separate drive. I haven't had the time to actually go in and pull them and download them, but I'll get those out to you as well. So the landowner has been very cooperative in the amount of, not so much the amount of fill, but the fill that is coming in there. They are doing it in accordance with their license, and they have voluntarily provided those reports to us.
Okay. Fred, next.
Yeah, I don't know what Mark was alluding to, but the letter written by CVC is some years, 6, 7, 8 years ago, that they would like to acquire that property is in the public domain. That was a public letter. So we know that Credit Valley is interested in acquiring that property.
Correct.
Okay. So Sharon, is there anything else?
The wastewater treatment plant progress, but I'll let someone else is going to bring that one up. So I'm good for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Ralph, item number 7, the Brookfield Properties update.
I beg your pardon, Your Honor?
You had wanted to talk about the Brookfield Properties wastewater treatment plant.
Right. Well, I think you covered that, Your Honor. My recommendation was that this be put on our
To-do list.
to-do list, the unfinished council business list, and I think that was agreed to. So that's
Okay.
a reminder, we're going to be getting a report back from, according to this document, getting a report back from them in June to make sure that that comes to place.
Okay,
The other,
And-
you want me to carry on, or
yep,
the cleanup, community roadside cleanup, no, sorry. I'm scrolling here.
number 2, the MECP cleanup order.
You're right. No, I haven't been there for a week. My observation from the road was that there was a large bin or a container. I thought it was a container that was there, which was turned away from me, so I couldn't see what was happening. I'm wondering if anybody on staff has an update on this. There's a lot of material. We calculated about 40 ton truck loads of refuse of food stuff to be removed by the 1st of June. I was wondering, do you have any idea how we're doing on that?
The only information at this time I could provide you, Councillor Bankdalo, was that I believe the bin was put there for them to remove all of the food waste, and that was what was being placed in the bin. The bin would have to be collected by a licensed hauler and removed to landfill. I don't have any more information, and I think we all know where Eugene's been for the last 3-4 days. So he's certainly not been on that property recently. I can certainly have him go down. You've seen our order, amended order as well, that's gone out, and it's posted. We're letting them get the food waste cleaned up first and foremost. That is the critical, I think, environmental component at this point in time. That'll take us to the end of May. And then June 2nd, hopefully the emergencies order off and we can start to, pounding on them to start cleaning up the property with the non-food waste as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Ralph?
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay. John?
2 things. I was also going to comment on the Brock pit amendments, and note that Mark sent a very well-written letter off to the ministry on this, specific to the importation of material for purposes of rehabilitation. At the time, we were not concerned about mixing of aggregate materials because that wasn't permitted in the license, but it now appears that they're going to waive that. What it doesn't say is how much, and does this go on forever? At some point, this pit is supposed to be rehabilitated and brought back to some kind of natural state. And if it's going to be a depository for materials to be blended, I'm concerned by that, and there's nothing here that suggests how much is involved. The removal of the berms, I don't have the history on this, but I'm presuming that there was a reason why berms were put in place, and if indeed the property is going to be blended into the adjacent CBC lands, maybe the berms aren't required anymore. I'm just making that assumption. So that's my concern on that particular item. What really has me going is item number 5, the communication from MTO on set fines and automated speed enforcement. I can't get it to come up on my computer, but I presume it's the letter that we received from the Township of Amaranth in response to the letter that we sent that we haven't got a reply to yet. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So the ministry takes it upon itself to respond to a neighboring municipality that received a copy of our letter, and we have yet to hear from the ministry. The letter has some really strange howlers contained within it, including the claim that there was consultation with municipalities, and in particular AMO, proposals to address aggressive driving and speeding. Yes, there was apparently some consultation, but AMO is far from happy with the outcome of that consultation or the contents of the Moving Ontarians More Safely Act, which is the act that I made representations on. So I just think it's an insult to be responding to CCs before you write to the people that have written repeatedly, not just once, but more than once, to the minister. And this letter isn't even from the minister. So I just put that on the record.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And there's nothing further. I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? So that's carried. So we're on to reports of members of council and staff. So we'll start with Kim.
Yeah, just wanting to let council know, pleased to welcome back Emma Holmes, our summer student. She started with us today. She's here in the office, and she'll be with us now till the end of August. Looking really forward to having her back. I have a number of projects between the Recreation Department and the Clerks Department for her to look after this year, and I know we'll keep her busy. So if you see her around, please say hi to her. She's great having her back, and she has now completed her third line, or her third year at the University of Waterloo and Recreation. So yeah, she's a great member to have back with us.
Fred?
I know what you're gonna ask.
Yeah.
I know.
Are we going to have a soccer program?
Oh, have not heard anything from the Upper Grand School Board as to whether or not they're going to allow us use of the fields. So I have gone out with Dave, and we have measured fields within Mono. The only possibility to run the soccer program would have to be on a couple of nights rather than just all one night, would be at Medill Meadows. We could do it there. However, there is a parking issue. That parking lot can maybe only hold 8 cars max at a time. So we're looking at street parking. Anyway, that's the only issue. Other than that, the other fields that we went to at Mono Community Center, Menora Park, Purple Hill, couldn't even think about that when there is no parking. Island Lake is going to be out of commission because of the development going on up there. So the only park we possibly have is Medill Meadows. I have left messages as well for the agricultural at the Orangeville at the fairgrounds, and you have yet to hear back from them. So hoping to run some type of soccer program. Might be very tiny, maybe only one team at a time, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, looking forward to trying to put something together. The other thing is just continuing on, staff are continuing on the removal of the dead ash trees at Menora Park. There's still some coming down. They have literally done an incredible job out there. If you get the opportunity to go and take a walk, I think you'll be amazed at the number of trees that have been taken down. So staff are working diligently with volunteers, and what a great job they've done, an incredible job. The only other thing is, along with the increased park usage right now, is we are really experiencing a lot of litter, a lot of excessive litter going on at the parks. We empty the garbage cans every Friday in preparation for the weekends, and we've now also increased a second pickup on Mondays. We're going around to empty them again, but people are insistent that even if the can is full, they're still putting their garbage, they're trying to stuff it in, or they're leaving it around the garbage pail, which is then blowing through the park, as opposed to taking it home and throwing it out. And we're still getting a lot of, it's quite obvious, a lot of household garbage taken and put into our garbage cans. So that continues to be a problem. So we're trying to stay on top of the litter. We appreciate the calls that we're getting from the residents to let us know if they're at the park and they see the can full, and we send staff out right away.
Okay. And any questions of Kim? Seeing none, thanks, Kim. Les?
Thank you. I have nothing new to report this week, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
All's easy flowing so far in our department. We just had a tax due date last week, and Treasury staff's on top of that.
Great. Okay. Any questions of Les? Seeing none. Dave Trotman. Thanks, Les.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Just a few things. Committee of Adjustment, as I did say last session, is May 27th, 7 p.m. We have two applications as part of the agenda. And we will have another meeting most likely in June as well, towards the third, fourth week of June, somewhere in there. We will be bringing forward a couple of applications as well to Plan Committee in the near future. One of them being probably the wedding venue proposal on Highway 9. There's still some work to be done on that, as well as the comments that have come in from that. I haven't got a date for that yet, but that would be forthcoming. There's a June 9th online engagement session with respect to the new MECP land use compatibility guidelines. So I have scheduled for June the 9th for that. Microbrew, of course, as you're aware of, will be wanting to get their review of their site plan onto council in the near future. I have met with the applicant. We did meet on site a week or so ago, just to go over the review plans as well as pending comments coming on that application. And then CVC has their Island Lake Management Plan, which will be coming forward to Planning Committee on June the 10th. So there's a number of documents there that they've submitted to put in front of Planning Committee for their review and presumably and hopefully a recommendation. So I think that's it. There's a number of things on the go, but those are the key ones for me at this point. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions of Dave? Okay, thanks very much, Dave. Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm still working, obviously, on the water budget and things for council. It's falling behind by the week, but we're getting there. I had a meeting last week with North Frontenac Telephone Company with respect to fiber installs. They've submitted their Town of Mono engineering drawings. We've been working with the county to streamline and make similar applications, so that should roll very smooth from them. We're expecting to have engineering comments back to them early next week. I did speak with them on their approach to the residents and how they're going to be acknowledging. Public Works requires that notification of construction projects be hand delivered to residents, and and they agreed that it was a perfect sales platform for themselves to send out notification of project and offering them the fiber install to their houses. I also have a map better than what is on the SWIFT website, and I hope to get that for public consumption at the next council meeting. But generally, it's this project specific for SWIFT is 20 Side Road down to County Road 16 on the Mona Amaranth Town line, inclusive of the Medill subdivision, 15 Side Road, and 7 or 8 homes here at the east side of Highway 10, just west of the office here. So we're working through that, and they hope to start installing this fall. Notification of retirement today that I'll be filling council in the coming days. So if you see a job ad for full-time replacement, you'll know what that's about. Calcium, we're done. We're well into zone 2 now of 5, and we're trying to keep the dry areas as moist as we can. We had a good watering program on Friday for the long weekend, and we're trying to get through that. Maintenance gravel also started this morning, and that'll run for 3 to 4 weeks, and calcium probably 3 to 5 weeks. So any questions of council, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, anybody have questions of Mike? No, seems everything's good. Thank you, Mike. So now Fred Simpson.
I've got nothing to report this morning, Your Worship.
Okay. Any questions of Fred? Yes, Fred. Fred 1 and Fred 2.
When are you going to take some time off, Fred?
Yeah, I can't answer that question any more than I can tell you how I'm going to continue enforcing bylaw, parking bylaws. So when I can answer the first, I can answer the second.
Okay.
I'm just worried about burnout.
It's fine.
Ready, I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark.
Just a couple of things. We are continuing to work with V Media on the water tower. They'd like to get wireless going from our water tower. They have been advised that there is some engineering that needs to be done and some costs that are involved, and they're quite fine with that. So I think that'll be moving ahead over the next couple of weeks as well. They just seem to fall off the earth for probably 5 or 6 weeks, and we hadn't had any contact. So that's back on. And the only other thing is I met with a couple of landowners. This is right at the 20th Side Road and the Mono Hills Golf Course. There's an old road allowance in there. There's a deviated roadway. We've identified needs for road widenings in there. There's 2 different landowners, and it's going to take some, I think, not so much creative, but there needs to be agreement between the landowners for some form of land exchange. So we're working through with that. And I don't know, I think the mayor and deputy mayor had received the emails from Mr. Holmes. So we've been out on site and met with them, and we're working through that as well. So other than that, I don't have anything other than I need to sit down with Fred on his vacation schedule.
Okay. Fred, next.
Mark, and maybe I should have asked Mike this when he was on. Where are we? I think we got a grant with the county to install some electric vehicle charging stations. Did we not? And whatever. Where did that go?
The council had asked us to start through that process, and we'd identified the town office as being a site, and I don't know if that was acceptable to the county in terms of being public. It's certainly still in play, Fred, as far as I know, but I can certainly bring you back some more information as to where they are with that.
And have we, the town and the county, agreed on a pricing structure when these things get installed?
I certainly am not aware of anything, Fred, at this point in time with them. I think Mike may have spoken with them. I think Fred may have spoken with them, but I think that's me.
So Mark, they had a facilities manager in the county last week. Last week they inspected our electrical room and they generally asked the location that we'd like the charging station. I want to say it's a level 2, but I'm not very. That's an 8-hour charge, and there was no timelines provided as to installation deadline or anything like that.
Yeah, and I'll look into the costs.
Okay. Anything else of Mark? Okay, thanks, Mark. So Fred, Nix, do you have anything you want to report?
3 quick things. One, the Headwater Streams Committee, in this case that means me. I've done about 4 properties on giant hogweed so far this year. Mike, you may be interested to know that those people from the Mono Amaranth town line that contacted you, or you were, anyway, I reached out to them. I CC'd you on the email. They've not got back to me, so I haven't visited them. The second thing I should let council know is on Friday in my mailbox, I got a Deer Hockley Road neighbors letter from a couple of residents. They are urging that the residents of Hockley Road write to the town, and the actually only address they've given, Laura, is yours. They are planning to make a petition or some presentation to town on the June 8th council meeting. I don't know if they've approached you yet, Fred Simpson. They make a number of suggestions for the Hockley Road, and actually I think one of them does make some sense. I'm not the delegation, so I'm not asking council about this right now. I just want to put it in the back of your minds. And Mike, the model they have here is sort of the 5-side road. We really do have a speeding problem on Hockley Road, and particularly with motorcycles. And you know the OPP cannot chase a motorcycle on the Hockley Road. One thought this neighborhood group has, and they put it in their thing that they've dropped off at everyone's mailbox, is more 4-way stop signs. And what they're thinking of there, Mike, is the 5-side road. There's between County Road 7 and Airport Road, I think there's 3 4-way stop signs. Yes, they're a bit inconvenient for local people driving on that road, but they do stop 5-side road from being used as a raceway. On Hockley Road, the only stop sign you hit is when you get to Airport Road. There's a flashing light at the 3rd line. I don't think these residents, and I too would not be arguing this is going to solve all the problems, but there's a couple of key intersections where there's a straightaway. Now, Mike, this isn't something you can do, but you could maybe talk to the county about it. Why couldn't we put at least 1, maybe 2 4-way stops along the Hockley Road? It would at least slow the motorcycles down a bit. It's a thought. Anyway, they will be. Laura, you may be getting some emails from these people, and Fred Simpson, I'm assuming they're going to contact you about making a delegation on June the 6th. The third thing I was going to tell you, council, about, and I haven't got the date. Mono Nordic Ski Club is having an annual general meeting. Sharon, you probably know the date. I lost the email. I saw a list of people who are being considered for the executive. And I talked to one of them. The old issue, which I 10 years ago sat down with Ross and started, about needing a more formal MOU between the town and the ski club to just clarify who does what and what the obligations are, was discussed, and that is being discussed now by this person who I think is going to be the executive, and he agrees. We need to do that. Kim, if you're still listening, I don't know if it's you or Mike that needs to be part of this process of developing an MOU. I mean, that's been on the back burner for 10 years now, and that's all I have to report.
Okay. Kim?
No, I'm just saying I've got that, a draft one here, and I do have that as well on my to-do list. I have been in, you know, talks with the ski club in regards to this memo of understanding, so it is something that will be created sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, do you have anything?
No, not really. I mean, just I've spent the last couple of days, the last couple of weekends, driving around our park and our roads and hoping that everybody's safe up there, because there are some times when it was very scary. And actually it was on the south third line that was the scariest. People on the road parked on both sides. It was pretty scary. But no, I don't. I'm sure Ralph has some monopollinator garden stuff, so I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Ralph?
Thanks for the lead in, Sharon. The garden continues with its maintenance and planning as almost as well as before the pandemic, but I have nothing else to report about it.
Okay, thank you. John?
I have nothing other than what I've already spoken to in the course of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The only thing that I have is I had a complaint regarding the vacant parking area with the Orangeville agricultural lands. Because they don't have the gates on the front entrance locked, there's car rallies that are coming up from the city, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 cars, whatever. And they like to proceed doing wheelies and donuts and partying and whatever. So the OPP has been called, but of course, by the time they get there, everybody goes, oh, you know, look, the cops are here, we gotta go. And so then they speed off and then there's nothing is done. So I'm bringing this up as it's not really, like it is private property, and I'm not sure why the Ag Society doesn't have their entrances locked. So is this something that should go to the Police Service Board, John, or should we be writing the letter?
Yeah, I can certainly raise it at our next meeting, which is the 16th of June. However, I believe one of the positive elements of that legislation that I was exercised about, Bill 282, was that it made illegal stunt driving, things like wheelies and so forth, in parking lots, even on private property. So the police may be in a situation where they can enforce stunt driving violations now, whereas before there was some ambiguity, if not prohibition against doing it if it was not on public roads. I could be wrong.
Okay, because I think the other step that we could make as council is a letter to the Ag Society to say this is becoming a problem for the neighborhood, and you need to, you know, they don't have any events on their property, so you know, you would think that they'd want to secure it in some fashion. So, okay, so is there anything, any notices of motion? And if there's no further business, we will go into the confirming bylaw. That we introduce and give the necessary readings to bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Mono in session 12-2021 held on the 25th of May 2021, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Did I have a mover? moved by Creelman and seconded by Mangtalo. Any discussion? And seeing none opposed, that's carried. And that we adjourn at 12:14 p.m. And that's moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And thank you very much, everybody.